Why do our campaigns start off seriously and then devolve into searching for witches who float like ducks? Hello and welcome to this week's episode of How to Be a Great GM. My name is Guy and today we are looking at comic relief, comic disaster. Why do we go from trying to be serious to just making comedy? And I think there are a few reasons for it. You may not be guilty of any of them, but a lot of it comes from the GM. And my reasoning is this. So, when you look at the table, suddenly starting to make jokes, suddenly starting to do ridiculous things, one of the reasons why this can happen is because of your pacing. Players will get bored. It's just going to happen, especially if it's a split party or if someone's doing something slow and everybody else is doing nothing. Players will get bored, they might start talking with each other, or they're going to be looking for anything that they can latch onto that will maybe lighten the mood, or at least create any kind of mood. So when they are bored, they're going to be listening and they go, oh, that could be quite funny, or imagine if he put the cat on his head, or why didn't you lick the alien on first contact rather than shaking their tentacle? You get the idea. So when your pacing in your game slows down and it hasn't varied for a while, players are going to be looking for anything to distract them. Alternatively, when your pacing is too fast and the players have just got everything being thrown on them and they have no time and they've got to get to the edge of the starship before it explodes and all of the airlocks are sealed and they've got to hack through each of those seals and then they're being attacked by robots and androids and all that kind of stuff, sometimes that's also an overload, and as a result the players are going to go, I need release. I need to break the tension in this moment. So I'm just going to drop a joke or I'm going to do something crazy. The other side of the coin is if your pacing is not too slow, if it's not too fast, but if it's just mundane, if it's predictable pacing. So everyone knows that they will each get their own turn, something I advocate on this channel, by the way, but how you do that and what is happening around it, of course, you've got to keep pacey or slow, you've got to vary it. But if your tone is, if your pace is consistent, if it's just plodding along and yes, the starship is going to explode, but you've still got some time, or they think they've still got some time, they're going to make light of the situation. Hey, did you hear the one about the bar? I'm hacking the console, right? Did you hear the one about the bartender who had the 3 aliens walk into his bar? Yeah, they assimilated everybody. It was so funny. No, that's not a funny. Anyway, you get the point. They will be having an opportunity as players to not engage in the situation because, well, they know that the timing at your pacing is consistent with whatever they're doing. It's keeping up with them rather than being driven by all of the external factors, which it should be. So pacing is a really important component when it comes to driving your game and to keeping it serious or to not. You might want a comedic game, but we're talking about trying to maintain a serious game. Another major contributing factor, of course, is your tone or your theme, however you want to describe this. This is the general mood that your entire campaign is going to have. So if, for example, you're playing in the Aliens universe and you've got these acid-filled, brain-eating, psychopathic aliens scurrying about with, spiky tails and everything's terror and darkly lit and screaming, the players are going to want to experience that. That's what they're expecting to happen. But if the tone is suddenly broken because there's terror, there's panic, and then a little kitty cat runs across the corridor, looks up at everyone, gives them a little meow, and then disappears down the passageway, that's a moment that's broken that tension, and the players might then drop a joke. That's absolutely fine. And as a matter of fact, that is exactly what you want to have happen. You want to have these peaks of panic, of terror, of pressure, of the tone being very, very dark, if that's your tone. And then you want a moment where the players can go, oh my goodness, this is so intense. This is so dramatic. I just need to make this joke, or I need to do it this, or I need to do that. The trick then with the tone is to allow that moment to happen, to allow the players to have their breathing space to make that joke, but then instantly to keep the action and pressure on them and bring back your tone straight away. So they go, oh, look, it's a cute little kitty cat. And then the kitty cat bursts open and turns into a giant alien, which now rips the face off one of their NPCs that's standing next to one of the PCs. They're going to laugh and then run the hell away, because that's the whole thing. So using your tone, making sure that your tone is appropriate. Now, of course, if you have a comedic tone in your game already, then your game is going to be comedic. But this, again, we're assuming that you're trying to have a serious campaign. So you do need to have moments of humor. And if you watch our serious dramas, anything that's got a dark tone, there is sometimes an element of laughing. There's sometimes a humorous element. Even if you look at the Aliens films, all 4 of them, or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 of them, depending on which ones you want to choose. But the original 3, the well-crafted 3, there are very tense moments. But then there are also little moments of humor or lightness where the characters are laughing and they're going, ha, 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 how silly were they? So that is what you want. You want to have an ebb and a flow of your tone to keep it going. If your tone is just dull, or if you don't even have tone, then the players are going to be doing all kinds of things because it doesn't matter. You are not reinforcing it. Now, the other thing, of course, is uncontrolled humor. You might have a player who's at your table who's just there for a good time and a social game, and they're not interested in playing a serious game. As a result, it doesn't matter what you're doing with your tone or your pacing, they're going to be sitting back going, did anyone see the cat meme about the cat that explodes into an alien? That was really funny. Let me show it to you on your phone. If you as the GM do not suddenly step forward and say, hey, listen, can you do that after the game? Or shall we pause the game and then all share the meme around? If you are not controlling that, that is going to happen. And then other players are going to go, oh, well, yeah, that was quite funny. Look at what I've got. Or they'll be sitting there not really engaging, but their mind will wander away, and then they'll start thinking about that video of the witch and the duck. And you'll go, wait, what? And then suddenly your whole thing has fallen over, again, because you haven't controlled it. Now, I'm not saying that the solution is to go, you may not be funny. I do not want any humor here. We are having fun. We are not having laughs and jokes. This is not my... That's the wrong way to go about it as well. That's not going to help you in the slightest. Keeping a lid on it, and if the player does something and you say, listen, can we just keep that out of the game? And they go, well, I think it's funny, and everyone goes, no, it's funny. Then you know your player group is very different in terms of what they're expecting to what you're expecting, and you might have to adjust that. On the other hand, if the player goes, yeah, feel free to suddenly have something happen to that player character. Oh yeah, well, while your player character is there busy chatting away to the other player characters, an arm reaches through the wall and rips half of your chest open. You take massive amounts of damage. Now, if that player says, no, but I was walking down the corridor with my gun raised. No, you were laughing with everybody else. It does sound like you're being a little bit dictatorial, but at the same time, someone has to take charge. And with that particular type of problem player, you're going to have to do that anyway. But when players have a moment of uncontrolled humor and they start making jokes, there is nothing wrong with you causing an incident to happen, an event. You trigger an event to happen, and suddenly everyone is back focused and on they go. Now, the refocusing technique is something that I have already mentioned very briefly, but to go over it again, to refocus your group, what I would always suggest is aiming for an ebb and a flow. So think about it as a rising tension and then a lowering of the tension. The rising tension is the part that you control as the GM. You always have control of what is happening in your game. That's your job. So if the party is wandering and they kind of making jokes and they're losing focus, trigger a rising tension. So something happens, everybody make a perception check. Everyone make a listen check. In the middle of the joke is absolutely fine. Obviously, if you're enjoying the joke, let them finish the joke and then immediately hit them with, okay, make a check. Let them know that the world is continuing to move even though they have stepped away from it temporarily. There is nothing wrong with that. Let that sound trigger something, but then don't just have them, oh, you don't hear anything. Because that's a cheap trick, and they're going to go, well, the next time you don't want to cry wolf. You want them to go, okay, and then you trigger something else, then, oh, okay, if we're paying attention, we're going to hear stuff. Give them a reward, that there's a scraping sound, and they discover a firearm that's been hidden in an air vent next to the corridor. Something along those lines, so that they go, okay, if I'm paying attention, I will get all of this stuff. Whereas if I'm joking around and sort of losing focus, then I won't get this stuff. It's important to understand, of course, that this is all about reading your table as well. If some of the players in your table really want to have fun, let them have fun and play a different game. But if they're all there to try and have this serious game, you're managing all of these things using pacing, your tone, uncontrolled behavior, trying to refocus that and bring it back to your game. So your task for this week is to take an adventure that you're running this week or next week and try your best to maintain a specific outcome that's more serious than perhaps you normally would. Now, again, this is if your group wants to have a serious game. Use these techniques. Think about how is your tone going to adjust your entire adventure. Think about how your pacing is working. Try and step back a little bit and go, okay, well, the game has slowed down. What can I trigger to cause an event to happen that's going to get my players refocused and back in on my adventure? And then share your experience down below. Hit that like button if you like the video. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of these videos that come out every week. And, well, to be perfectly honest with you, today's sponsor is you. You make this channel possible. You keep us going. All of your commentary, your interactions, your subscriptions, whether you are a Patreon or not, whether you just share this video with your friends to say, hey, look at this, think about that. You are helping make this channel possible. I can't thank you enough for your support over the years. We are and have grown to a scale that was unimaginable 5 years ago, and it is absolutely, absolutely amazing, and it is down to you. So happy Sci July to you and your players, or your DMs or GMs or whatever you call them. I wish you and your table the very happiest of gaming.